Hello and welcome to Tim Burbage Reads. My name's Tim Burbage and today I'm doing a book review for The Long Earth by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter. Hey Tim, why are you dressed like Spock? That is because I was thinking after I'd read this book what this reminded me of. And it's basically, what if Terry Pratchett wrote an episode of Star Trek? So the concept here is 1917, the Western Front. Private Percy Blakeney wakes up. He is lying on fresh spring grass. He can hear birdsong and the wind on the leaves in the trees. Where have the mud, blood and blasted landscape of no man's land gone? 2015, Madison, Wisconsin. Cop Monica Jansen is exploring the burned out home of a reclusive, some say mad, others dangerous scientist, when she finds a curious gadget, a box containing some wiring, a three-way switch, and a potato. It is the prototype of an invention that will change the way mankind views its world forever. And that's an understatement, if ever there is one. Doesn't really give much away, but what it's about is people have the ability through this machine to step to a parallel world, a parallel Earth. And what that leads to is a group of characters, a variety of characters, getting together, and some are traveling, some are trying to find out what's going on. Some people can't step, as it's called. Some people are what are called natural steppers. So they don't actually need the device to step. What is interesting reading the back now is that this misses a lot of key information. So it doesn't say what stepping is. It just says there's a device and there's a man in World War I. That's it. So the man in World War I, I think, it's chapter 1. But then we don't meet. You think Monica Jansen is the main character, and she's not. I would say the main character is, what's his name? Is someone who is a natural stepper. Joshua Valiente, that's it. So he is a natural stepper. And what happens is the mad scientist person shares this invention, and loads of kids make this invention, and they step to parallel worlds and freak out because they flick a switch and suddenly all their parents are gone, their loved ones are gone, their home where they're standing looks completely different, all this kind of stuff. And Joshua is there, and he's a natural stepper, so he feels very calm in this parallel Earth. They call them West 1 and East 1 because you have to flick the switch either West or East. And where I find the Star Trek-ness of this comes through is in the main plot. So that's the concept, is you have parallel worlds, and how do people react to that, basically. And the main plot is that we follow Josh as he is now older. He gets recruited by a huge, super rich company, and he travels with something which is a bit Terry Pratchett, which is a old Tibetan monk reincarnated into an AI who, when you first meet him, is living inside a vending machine. It's very Terry Pratchett. And what they do is they explore. The main plot of this book is about exploration of these parallel Earths. It's the main plot. So what they do is they just say, I think they go west, and they just step from Earth 1, Earth 2, West 3, West 4, just keep stepping, parallel, just exploring strange new worlds. They meet new life and new civilizations, and they boldly go where no man has gone before. That is this book. That is the main crux of this book. And I both really liked that, and I also didn't like it in some ways. I found the things that they found on their explorations, some of them really interesting, some of them bizarre and strange. A lot of it was quite boring in a way because they're just stepping and stepping and stepping. And then there's like the situations seem quite manufactured. So at this particular point, Josh decides to go down and explore, when he didn't explore on the other 350 worlds that they travelled across. But this one he does, and then something happens, and they get out of it, and they carry on. And it's episodic in that way, like Star Trek. Then you have the other... And I thought I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the exploration, and I wanted to see more of it, and I wanted to see where they were getting to. And they got to somewhere that I thought was very interesting and bizarre. And this is a first in a 5-book series, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen with them, with their kind of plot of what they're doing and what they're exploring. There's one place that they find on the way which I thought was really interesting. Then you have what life is like here on Earth, Datum Earth as they call it. And this is where Monica Jansen, she's on the back of the book, so you think she's the main character? She's definitely a side character. She's probably the main side character, but her plot takes up 25% of the book, maybe? I may be wrong on that, but not very much. Her chapters, her perspective. And she is very focused on the reality of, okay, you have a parallel world. And I found this really interesting from a world building perspective. She meets this guy who is like a failed businessman. He just keeps failing in business. So what he does is he goes to a parallel world where the California gold rush happened. And he's like, well, then that world will also have gold. So I can go there. And he gets there and there's already like 1,000 people there. And because in the parallel world, all of the natural resources are still there, bar there may be some strange phenomena. A river went a different way. There was a tidal wave happened. There was an earthquake or something, and the world looks different geographically, but pretty similar. The main big difference is that on any of these parallel worlds, there are no people. There's no humanity. It's just nature. And what that leads to from a world building perspective and from a civilization and a humanity perspective is that the key constraint, one of the key constraints in modern society is space. We don't have enough space. We have too many people living in one spot, therefore we can't hunt or gather anymore, therefore we start farming. With parallel worlds, you have an unlimited amount of space. Does society then move back towards hunter-gathering? There is an unlimited amount of gold because you could just go to a parallel world and mine it. There is an unlimited amount of natural resources. Therefore, how do you trade? What has value? So people start, especially those kind of pioneers who are going to parallel worlds like people did across the Old West, the Oregon Trail and stuff, they trade in favors, and you start getting to this utopia of no one being hungry because you can go to a parallel world and find food there, which is another Star Trekism. Like that is the world in Star Trek, is that through technology they have reached this utopian level where money isn't required, and it's just about the betterment of humanity and everything. And we're kind of getting there with this world. That I found super interesting. I wanted more of that. We then also have a third plot which Monica investigates, which is there are some people who can't step at all. Most people need, 90% of people, 95, need the box with the potato in it to step. And when you do step into another world, you feel really sick for like 15 minutes. You do have a small group of people who are natural steppers who don't need the box. And then there are another small group of people who, they have the box, they flick the switch, nothing happens. They just can't step. And it's interesting to see, especially what's going on in America and the right wing, where they call them phobics. They are angry that they can't step and they feel like abandoned, and the Datum Earth, as they call it, is becoming abandoned, and these people are very angry. These are MAGAs, make Datum Earth great again. And And that plotline I thought was really undercooked until the very end. And the ending just completely threw me, and not in a, whoa, what a crazy twist, as more of a, whoa, why did that happen? Where's this coming from? I don't know anything about this. So that's a plotline that I think needed more time. And the book itself is, I don't know, what's it, 400 pages, something like that? Yeah, 420 plus pages. So it's not a short book, but it's not a chonker. I wouldn't describe it as a chonker. And but one thing that definitely could be cut is, certainly from my perspective, having just read one book, is you keep getting, especially in the first half, random cutaways to people who you may only meet once experiencing something. So there's a chapter about a woman who hates her job, so she just gets up one day. She has, like, I think she has the device at work, and she's like, I've had enough of this. I'm just going to flick, and I'm going to leave this earth. I've had enough. And then we meet her later, and it's just a really side thing. That cutaway happens seemingly right in the middle of a plot, and you're like, wait, what's going on? Who's this person? Why am I meeting a new character? Oh, they never appear. They never really appear again. Oh, okay. And that happens a fair few times. And I get what they were going for in showing the scope of almost everyone can travel to a parallel world. So you're going to get all of these different stories. But it meant that it felt very fragmented at times. And just as you're getting going with someone, you cut to someone, and you never, like, you lose your momentum. Then you have to go back and you're like, wait, was that important? I don't really know. And interestingly, so it starts here, 1917, with Private Percy Blakeney. And he is the first chapter. And then you never hear from him again. He is not an important part of this book, but he takes up the first chapter. It is not a prologue. It's chapter 1. And he takes up the first part of the blurb. And the main character, Joshua Valiente, is not on the blurb at all. Just strange choices. So this was written by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter. These came out post Terry Pratchett making his diagnosis of Alzheimer's known. So when I said, my mum bought this for me, and I said to her, I finished reading the Long Earth. I thought it was pretty good. And she went, was it sad? And it's just because Terry Pratchett was such a great person, and knowing that these books were coming out while we all knew that the clock was ticking. So they just have, it's not in the text at all, I would say, a melancholy to them. That doesn't come across in the text. I think only because these might have been one of the first books released after the diagnosis, or I will always associate this book and this series with the decline of his health. That's not the book's fault. That's purely a me thing. If someone reads this book in 30 years' time who had never heard of it before, they would have no idea. But that's definitely something that to stick with me. I don't know how they wrote it between them. I don't know. Was it just Terry Pratchett came up with the ideas and Stephen Baxter did the writing, like kind of like a James Patterson style thing? Or was it a back and forth like Terry Pratchett did with Neil Gaiman, where they'd write a chapter and send it back and the other person would edit it? I have no idea. But it wasn't very funny. This isn't a funny book. This isn't an absurd book. There are bits, the idea of a potato being the key part, the idea of the Tibetan monk being reincarnated into a vending machine. There are some funny bits in here, but it's not a funny book. It's not an absurd book. So this was a really hard book to rate because it had some parts that I really liked and was really interested in. Other parts I wasn't as interested in, but they were much more of the plot. The ending I really didn't enjoy because I didn't see where it came from at all. And I also don't understand necessarily the impact of it. And that's one thing. This has a little bit of the multiverse problem, where you have a problem and someone, well, we'll just go to another universe and then it'll be fine because in that universe this thing wouldn't have happened. And you do get you could get a little bit of that. Potentially that's a risk for this series. Not in this book, but it's a risk for this series. So overall, I found this really hard to rate. I gave this 3 stars. I think it was 4 stars up until the last 20 pages. And that ending brought it down to 3. But I would definitely be interested in continuing this series because I think it could, like, the concepts are really interesting. And I hope that it continues with the themes of exploration and what happens in a resource-laden society, 2 elements of Star Trek that I find really interesting. Yeah, so there we go. Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter, The Long Earth, 3 stars. What if Terry Pratchett wrote Star Trek? And that's my review. Please give this video a thumbs up. Please like it. If you want to see more reviews or anything else, please subscribe. I'm a very, very, very small YouTube channel, so I will read and reply to every comment as well, as I'm trying to just talk to people about the books that I like and the books that I've read. So there we go. I think that's it. I'm trying to think of the Star Trek goodbye, and there isn't really one. Live long and prosper. Anyway, get out of my house.